Hello, this is Lead 641, Group 4 Ethics Presentation of Integrity Through Accountability, presented by Hannah Chapman, Hannah Sudakar, and Kara Walensky. First, for an intro of our presenters. My name is Hannah Chapman. I'm the Director of Program and Services at IDISKI Foundation. We're a small startup that provides scholarship opportunities for students with muscular dystrophy and related conditions. I am also a full-time case manager for Hennepin County. Both of these programs' ethics overlap, which is why I wanted to discuss both of them.
My name is Hannah Sudakar, and I work as the Director of Business Development for World and Sign. We're a small tech startup, a deaf-owned, minority-owned language accessibility solutions company based in Maryland. We provide many services, including audiovisual renting, audiovisual editing, and also captioning and ASL interpretation, and anything that would make the life of a person with a disability easier.
My name is Kara Walensky, and I'm an operations supervisor at Bio-Techne, a scientific company headquartered in Minneapolis with approximately 3,000 employees globally.
To dive into the theme of our presentation, from our initial discussions and through the study of our research as well, we noticed a common theme in all of the different principles that we had studied, which would be integrity. And we also landed on integrity through accountability. And through also further discussion, we realized that we had now had a direction to impose upon integrity that we would like to cover in our 3 ethical lessons. The first direction is internal integrity, which is a personal integrity governed by one's own ethical standards, moral standards, faith systems, and other such things. The second direction is an outward direction, which is determined by leader relationship, interorganizational relationship, culture building, and also relationship towards the customer/clients as well. And the third domain of integrity or direction is an upward-downward direction, which is determined by any form of regulatory body that determines our work, or governing body that determines our work. And in the upcoming slides, we will look at specific examples from each of our companies that will align with that. So why integrity and accountability? A research study that we have mentioned here determines integrity to be the perceived alignment between a leader's words and deeds, and how we can consider accountability to be held accountable to our actions, whether that be to ourselves or those around us. So integrity and accountability are fundamental to business relationships and networking opportunities because they are the basis of trust. And that's what we would like to focus on.
Alrighty, as Hannah mentioned, our first ethical dilemma is demonstrating internal integrity through personal accountability. Personal integrity is essential for many reasons, but it comes down to doing the right thing even when no one's watching. One with high personal integrity is more likely to feel more connected and content with their life, reaffirming their values and priorities. This has more emphasis as throughout the pandemic, we worked in a remote setting. As mentioned in Bowman and Deal, if an organization's members lack integrity, it can negatively affect the business's overall performance and reputation. Studies show organizations perform better when there's an environment that values integrity and employees are held to a high ethical standard. For my work, we are responsible for coordinating and overseeing 50+ clients and their services while working with each of their care teams. We are held highly accountable for our actions as we care and coordinate services for others and ensure their health and safety needs are being met. Our job revolves around being honest, supporting, and transparent with them in order to provide the best care possible. For World and Sign, a lot of importance is placed on employee integrity. The small team of employees have a number of remote and in-person workers. World and Sign does not have a regulated system to monitor attendance for the employees. All are expected to show up and perform duties like they've agreed to do so. This system works well for the smaller team when there's a certain level of comfort and understanding. But a large part of the work put out by the company is led by independent freelance contractors who receive appointments on an impersonal portal system that lacks personal connection and has led to certain nonchalance seen in our work. There have been multiple appointments dropped at the last minute with no real system of discipline. This must be addressed in the future to avoid any mishaps and loss of image and credibility of the company. Important strategies for maintaining personal accountability in a scientific setting include universal scientific method training, ethics and conduct training, and reproducibility through transparency, according to Crester. In particular, a scientist must be grounded in the basic principles of a robust scientific method to achieve and maintain scientific integrity. At Bio-Techne, all lab employees receive annual training as reminders to hold them accountable for documentation policies. Team members are responsible for maintaining proper batch documentation, accurately presenting data, keeping all original data, even if there's need to be multiple repeats of a test, and retaining any corrections with the appropriate error code, initial, and date. They should bring questionable batches to the attention of a superior to determine the best course of action.
Our second ethical lesson will involve exhibiting cultural integrity through organizational accountability, and we will begin by defining what culture is. Paneerselvam Raya defined culture to be the process of communicating and promoting the organizational ethos to employees. Therefore, culture is not only the development or implementation of standard practices, but it's also the communication and execution of it. Here we want to focus on the integrity and culture of the organization as a whole, and how the organization and its leaders hold its members accountable to ethical practice. To begin with Hannah Chapman's work, through both of her roles at Idiski Foundation and Hennepin County, she's constantly working with different populations of people as well as different demographics. Culture in regard to these roles is incorporated into all actions, as it's made crucial to meet and appease all groups and all people with the equal and utmost respect. Both of these organizations maintain and enforce diversity and inclusion practices in an effort to ensure that all voices of people are heard, despite external pressures that people face within their communities. In case management, caseloads are equally distributed, so one does not know the individuals that they receive until they are handed the caseload. For any tips and tricks, employees are provided with employee handbooks as well as monthly training sessions to ensure that they are correctly trained. At World and Sign, we a handbook that serves and addresses every facet of employee life, right from dress code to late policies to vacation policies, everything else. And also at World and Sign, we all wear many different hats at all times. So there is a certain process to our work where one section is unable to perform without another section having performed their work already. This helps us develop an internal system of accountability. At Bio-Techne, they have an extensive system of code of ethics and business conduct, which they are hoping will create a culture of quality. This means that quality, integrity, and accountability must be baked into the essence of who the company is, not just added as a topping as part of the process. All groups from developmental to manufacturing to quality control and quality assurance must be thinking about product quality and be accountable to make sure that they meet the customer's expectations.
Our third ethical dilemma is external integrity and accountability, which relates to the value of organizational justice or fairness. This domain includes external regulatory agencies, certifications, and audits to meet external standards. At both Idiski and Hennepin County, government policies and restrictions regulate practices. For Hennepin County specifically, the organization needs to abide by HIPAA and other confidentiality agreements. The county provides training to ensure that employees uphold policies and regulations. Audits are frequent due to government funding of nonprofit organizations. Employees must be licensed in certain areas to access sensitive information, and documentation practices must be tightly controlled. World and Sign is registered with the Small Business Administration, or SBA, and is also certified as a Minority Business Enterprise, or MBE, since it is partially owned by an Indian American deaf individual. This certification allows for extra consideration to be given in government contracts. World and Sign also qualifies for certain tax exemptions under a hub zone because of its location in a historically underutilized business area. For licensing, World and Sign maintains RID and CDI certifications. The Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, or RID, is a basic interpreter certification obtained by passing exams. The Certified Deaf Interpreter, or CDI, is for deaf or hard of hearing interpreters who work in tandem with a hearing interpreter for fuller accessibility in the cultural and contextual details. At Bio-Techne, we gain customer trust by meeting quality expectations. Meeting regulatory requirements helps obtain acceptance, and consensus and alignment in scientific integrity standards are important for maintaining trust. Bio-Techne demonstrates quality through a quality management system, or QMS, and through external standards such as ISO certifications, which stands for International Organization for Standardization. Customer audits demonstrate that the manufacturing environment meets expectations. Another area of ethical dilemma is making sure we are holding to vendors' acceptable use policies, or else seeking licensing agreements to use their product for further manufacturing. Overall, maintaining integrity and accountability to external standards is important for making ethical decisions, meeting customer and client expectations, and growing an organization.
Next steps. According to Havel, the best way to promote ethical behavior is by setting a good example. Traditionally, employees expect their leaders and supervisors to enforce proper standards and guidance for their organization. Treating everyone in a company ethically and fairly must be the top priority of every leader and nonprofit. Studies have shown that employees who operate in an ethical environment are more likely to adhere to the ethical standards of the organization. Leadership can also put this into writing, such as through the use of code of conduct, and holding employees as well as themselves to this standard. These suggestions take a considerable amount of time, energy, and work, but studies confirm this is beneficial towards having a healthy organization in the long run. Having a healthy, ethical organization built on integrity is important, but having a healthy, ethical nonprofit with integrity is crucial for a nonprofit's success.
For World and Sign, as I've listed a bunch of techniques that we may follow to lead to organizational integrity, the most important that I would like to focus on is based on a research study that conducted interviews between 209 employee manager teams in South Korea, and this established a positive relationship between behavioral integrity and employee in role performance. This study suggests that the word-deed alignment of managers is integral in facilitating cooperation within a team, because employees who perceive high leader behavior integrity are motivated to support their leaders, but by also reciprocating the same behavior, supportive behavior towards their coworkers and towards the people who work under them as well. I think this is essential in WIS's current journey, as we have a new CEO in place, and this will help us not only to determine our relationship with our leaders, but also determine our relationship with the third party and independent contractors who work under us as well.
I can lead by setting a good example of ethical behavior. In particular, I can inspire a culture of quality. I must be a continual learner and spread the value of learning and improvement to others. I can mentor and speak to employees about expectation and inspire them to make ethical decisions. I should encourage consideration of morals and question potentially unethical behavior. In this way, I can be what Bowman and Deal refer to as a spiritual leader. One source found that overconfidence in the ability to handle ethical problems on the spot was a barrier to ethical behavior. Another source emphasizes the need for humility. Heeding those warnings, I must be careful to consider my own liability of errancy and seek advice from colleagues on how to handle ethical dilemmas. We have described what can be viewed as a three-legged stool of integrity through accountability. The three legs represent the domains of integrity and their associated forms of accountability. Each leg supports the other, and without any one of these, the stool will not stand. First is internal integrity, which is the actions of individuals keeping themselves personally accountable. Second is cultural integrity, which includes the leadership atmosphere that influences decisions and keeps the organization accountable. Third is external integrity, which includes regulatory systems for accountability that ensure that personal and cultural integrity is maintained. It is important to not neglect any aspect of integrity. To maintain integrity and accountability, all the ecosystem components and players must act synergistically and in a trustworthy way. We hope that this presentation has helped you to consider facets of integrity and accountability in new ways and will be valuable for your leadership journey.